Hey everybody, welcome to the pre-market analysis that we open up to YouTube every single Wednesday. This is Spartan speaking here. Thanks for joining us this morning. I'm going to give you guys a little bit of a breakdown on what's going to happen. Once I'm done speaking, Beth's going to come on. She's going to go through the macro environment, any news events that are happening over the course of today, as well as that happen over the course of the evening that matter or make sense to be looking at today. She'll be going through any of the bigger picture items as well, ETFs or individual names as well that makes sense to be aware of, any commodities as well. After that's done, I'm going to come on. We're going to go through the names that are gapping up and gapping down that I'm looking at today. We'll go through the news associated with those gap up, gap downs, go through the technicals, build an action plan on those names, as well as go through the FANG and the SPY. Once that's done, South Beach will come on, give you a breakdown of the macro environment as well, and go through any individual names that he's looking at, as well as analysts, upgrades, downgrades that make sense to be aware of. And that's pretty much about it. We'll do a quick little recap of those individual names in FANG right before the open after South Beach is done speaking, and then we'll be ready to go. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to Beth, and I'll talk to you guys shortly. Beth, it's all yours.
Thank you, my friend. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to those of you who are joining us pre-market here. Spartan Trading, our live YouTube stream, Wednesday morning. It is month end, quarter end, and quite the fantastic rebalance we experienced. None of us who've been in this market for a while can honestly say we've seen anything quite like it. It's not just about Bill Wong, what happened with our kick ghost, it's about all kinds of other things going on. Before we take a deep dive here, lots to cover this morning. Chinese manufacturing PMI, a little bit better than expected. Okay, nice. German unemployment rate was a little bit better than expected. And the EA, it's interesting because Lagarde came out with some pretty strong verbiage. There's a problem, and the problem is interest rates are going higher globally. I mean, this is a problem. And I don't know whether this Mack truck that's basically going down a very steep incline can be stopped at this point in time. We do have ADP, unemployment numbers, Chicago PMI. And then we have pending home sales, and you know my love for the EIA. It's been more of a build than expected. I have literally no idea how that's going to come out. And then we have Bostek speaking. Okay. All right, Lagarde, she's getting tough. She's got a toolbox. Just like Powell has a toolbox. Let's do it. So this is a big deal for the European area because as clearly as interest rates go up, it stymies any sort of recovery. And since they've really had a very bad last, their fourth round of COVID, they don't want to stop dead in its tracks any sort of recovery. So wait and see how that plays out. No idea what they're going to be able to do, if they're going to be able to do anything. So we'll just have to see. Okay, let's see what happened in terms of some of these. Lulu. Wow, okay, nice. Apple got an upgrade as well. You know, it's really hard for me to get too excited. I've been very quiet about a lot of things. What I have been doing is I've been slowly adding to some of my Delta trades. So in terms of the small cap, I've been doing the IWM as opposed to the TNA because it's just too expensive. We actually are going to go over a little bit in terms of my thoughts for the month of April based off of seasonality. And I'll kind of give you my game plan on it as to where I want to focus. You know that I've been focusing on for multiple months now, the XLP. Well, it's time to kind of switch up a little bit, and we'll discuss that in just a bit. All right, yesterday, what happened? All right. Had some red, had some green. So XLY was up, right? XLP was down, a lot of red, a little bit of green. This is kind of, it's okay. To me, it's still about year to date. I mean, the last quarter, whatever. I mean, we've got to see a green here. Even XLP, I know, crazy, right? So the question is going to be, where do we go from here? And I'll share some of my thoughts in just a second. This is a big red flag. got a divergence setting up here, which I'm not a fan of. So you got basically all-time highs, but it's the fewest up issues since 1946. That's a big deal. Well, the average on a 52-week high is all the way up here. And this is where we are. That's not good, because what do we want? We want breadth, right? Breadth of market, not what we're getting. So this goes into the oh snap category. What does it mean though, going forward when this happens on the S&P? This is a conundrum. It's not enough to say, oh my God, but it's enough to say, oh boy, all right? So we have to be, going back to 1929, we have to be very narrow in what we want to look at. And this is why I still continue to think, guys, that for me at least, the S&P is going to be used as a hedge against some of my other positions. So if I'm in small caps, I'm in tech, whatever, I want to hedge it against the S&P. And this kind of leads credence to that. This is a huge red flag. Right? So McClellan oscillator, deeply negative in spite of this new highs. Once again, another red flag, right? Once again, this is not what we want to see. So we're starting to see the components within the S&P 500 that are saying, good golly, Miss Molly, danger, danger. Right. End of the month, here we are, SPX. This is actually, let's get to March. Okay, it's supposed to be red today. But what I can tell you right now is next week, a sea of green. So I'm going to be putting on with the S&P butterfly for next week, FYI. Let's see if it component, yeah, Dow, same, right? NASDAQ, ooh, not as much, right? But still on the balance, positive, right? And then we have the Russell, which is actually sloppy choppy. So we know that next week, SPY, Dow are two top dogs in the first beginning of the new month into April, new quarter. We'll see how it plays out. And this is how you use this information, guys. You say, okay, what am I going to do with my positions, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. Risk chart. This is the rankings. Volatility in the shitter. Gold miners, biotech, gold, top, home builders, 89. Yeah, not sure about that. And here we see in terms of money flows out of consumer staples. This is why I continue to want to be in consumer staples, right? And then the industrials is top dog, and this will continue. We've been in the industrials XLI for quite some time now, doing quite well on that position. And that was just purely the infrastructure trade conviction with the election of Biden. This was like a no-brainer for us. And we're up a couple 100% on that. And well, I want this to basically continue to go higher. And I think it will continue to go higher on that one. Right? Oversold, NASDAQ. Overbought, financials. Bonds, well, you know what to say about that. And the other countries, Indonesia, top country is Singapore, Qatar, Taiwan, UAE. And then you can see here, lowest money flows, Germany, highest money flows, emerging markets. Crazy, right? Fascinating. Here's our little heat map, and this kind of reflective. So, you know, when it gets to single digits, I say, okay, time to buy a little bit, scalp it. So silver, single digits. I'm going to be buying some, probably 1 to 2 months out. I'll do an SLV out on the money delta trade on that. Okay. And then on the top side is the home builders, and you saw that earlier. This is a lovely heat map, though. This is what we want to see in this like beige-ish, yellow beige type thing. This is the industrials, but it's in the 70s. This should be a nice little tailwind for us, guys, into the next quarter. Let's take a look at seasonality here, because we are going into a new quarter as well as a new month. And this is a big deal. So what I'm saying to myself, okay, so for the month of April, right, what sectors are strong? So here you have the XLK, basically from April 1st to May 2nd, 11 out of 15 years. It goes up, an average of 3.49%. But if you look at the XLY, 14 out of 15 years, It goes up the month of April, 4.99%. Statistically, obviously, going back 15 years, you would want to take this trade as opposed to the XLK. So now let's look at the XLC. And that's not going to give me up the XLC. XLI. Let's look at the industrials. A2, month of April, 13 out of 15. You're starting to see the pattern here. April should be a really strong month for a lot of these different sectors. Okay. Let's look at the XLP. Not as much, right? So for me, I want to rotate a little bit of money out of the XLP. I'll probably put some puts on, guys. And then I want to basically right now focus on the XLY because it's the strongest of the strong into May. And the way in which I do this is I go to the June contract. For those of you who are so interested. And you know what, guys? I'll post a trade just so for the members, just so you can see my thought process and what it will be a delta trade, a June delta trade, and it will be the XLY. So I'm going to focus in on right now. Okay, just for shits and giggles, let's take a look at the material side. Not bad. Okay, and then let's look at XBI on the biotech side. A little bit sloppy choppy there, but let's see what this looks like. All right, not much there. All right, so that's the narrative for me in April. I want to focus on the XLY, consumer discretionary. All right, let's take a peek here at Flow, what Flow had to say yesterday in terms of money flows. This Apple, I kept watching it and I kept watching it. And the reason why I actually didn't follow this 120, because they paid $1.60 on it. And to me, my break even would have been 121.60. Well, at 121.80, I don't, to me on a risk reward basis, no. You know me, I like my little Delta stuff. A little bit out here for the next week, but this is the one also that really piqued my interest. Yesterday, I pointed out to everybody that I did add to our Delta trade, our June Delta trade on Apple. See how it plays out, okay? All right, this one was also very intriguing for me, but it was almost like a paper replacement, so I didn't follow it. So this is kind of, FedEx. I love FedEx. I'm in multiple accounts in FedEx Delta trades. I think this is going to be quite something. And the simple reason is because if you look at the Dow transports, it is the leader. I don't see it giving up that leadership right now, especially as the economy starts to recover, et cetera, et cetera. Right? We've had fantastic earnings across the board and a large percentage of companies, guys. And I think that this is going to be a continuation tailwind for the rails as well as for UPS, FedEx, et cetera. I'm in CSX as my play on the rail side. And this is going to be a multi-month. I will continue to hold these trades. CRWD, keep an eye on this, the cyber stocks. A lot of these cloud-based names, a lot of things were taken to the woodshed. So now, I mentioned this yesterday, a lot of these higher beta growth tech names are now becoming a valuation trade. Cool, right? So I'm just saying that you have to kind of tweak yourself in terms of on a valuation basis. What's the forward PE multiple? Where are we? How much has it come down? Stuff like that. Not that I'm saying you need to pick bottoms, but I'm saying that on a risk reward basis, a lot of these companies, and Spartan is starting to show us as well, a lot of these companies basically sold off to important bottoms, lows. So it's a well-defined risk reward. You know where to stop yourself out. And it's time to start accruing some of these names. Okay? For example, and we're going to go over that, if you look at the solar names, clean energy names, right? Things like that. And I'll go over those tickers as well. All right. So we did follow the forward, yada, yada, yada. We'll see what comes out today. Very light on the put side. And we'll just keep an eye on VIX. Holding this low. Once again, the VXX is diverging from the VIX for obvious reasons. I've gone over this multiple times. The VXX is meant to go to zero. The VIX is not, right? You could say, okay, well, this is a huge divergence between what's going on in the market versus the VIX. And I would say, no, historically, it's basically reverted to the mean, right? Would I appreciate it to go back down to this quadrant-ish, right? I don't think it can actually, based off of what's going on in terms of the internals, et cetera, et cetera. So we'll just keep an eye on it, but you got to get the idea. All right, let's look here at the bonds globally. 30-year for us, the yield is down, 10, 5, 2 up, Canada up, Brazil down, and you can see German coming down and France, right? And then the UK going up. And we're going to go over the UK as well, the gilts and stuff like that. All right, 10-year quadrant. I don't see us actually breaking out of this. The question is going to be is whether we basically hold this support or whether we go down here. It is actually okay to have this type of range in the 10-year. And I would actually, I think a lot of members would welcome it, including the Fed. Just consolidate it, see how this thing plays out. Here's the German against the 10-year against the 10-year, right? As you can see here, on the spread is widening between the German 10-year and the US 10-year. Right? So this is something we have to keep an eye on. I don't think it basically breaks this. If it does, then obviously we have farther to go in terms of the German rates against the US rates on the spread. Right? And here you can see here's the 10-year. Right here's the pivot. So we're still kind of in a quadrant here, a box. And this is what getting everybody shorts in a twist because the yield is starting to go up. It's still negative, guys. And maybe zero is okay, but we'll find out soon. Here's a 10-year. This is the UK on the gilts. It's interest rates, as you can see here, because this is the actual, this is the futures contract. These are actual price, not the yield. So as it goes down, that means yield is going up. And we're at an interesting pivot point here, guys, going back to 2014 on the monthly. This is notable, and this is kind of why I'm still in this Barclays Delta trade, simply because I believe that interest rates globally have to go up. I mean, there's only so much you can do in terms of suppressing it. So I guess I'm saying that the amount of liquidity that's going to come in, I don't think the central bank is going to have the appetite to absorb all the liquidity. Just saying. All right, here we go. Here's the FTSE. Interesting, right? This is the futures, right? Potential. January, almost 1 year, over a year ago. Potential breakout on the weekly. Okay, cool. And you can see here, sideways consolidative pattern. Breaks, then there is room on the upside here. Nice room on the upside. Okay. The FTSE. Let's take a look at the DAX. It has broken out. It is the strongest, okay, in terms of overseas, and it's at the high. So another thing, and here's the Nikkei. It's not doing much, but this EFA is what I've been waiting patiently for. So I think what's going to happen here, guys, is this is the monthly, right? We're breaking hold above the 77.20. I'm going to be buying out of the money EFA calls as a valuation small cap trade because, as you can see, it's multi-month, multi-year sideways consolidation going all the way back to 2006. So this actually does break out and holds. It's tried before. You basically are looking at a movement up to 84. So I'll probably be looking at like 90, 100, 1 year out calls on the EFA. Shanghai composite sideways consolidation still holding above on the monthly side, no damage done there. FXI sideways consolidation, there was some damage done here in the sense that it got strongly rebuffed, okay, going back with this top all the way back as well to 2007. Big deal, but it did hold this pivot right here and bounced, okay, and reclaimed. So I'm thinking right now, guys, that we can get a nice, healthy bounce, at least in the Chinese side. I would not be surprised if this is basically the new range within this box right here. You can see it. MCHI, taken to the woodshed, basically yanked. This is the monthly. Basically reclaimed the 38.2% fib. Reclaim this pivot here. Let's see what happens with it. It really needs to reclaim this on a monthly basis, guys. That's the pivot, at least to be aggressive or add to on the upside. And that comes in at 83.74. So as you can see, a lot of work to be done. K-Web, this has been the one that they've been using as a on the put sweep side for multiple months. This gets you obviously a big deal in terms of hedging. I want to see this starting to reclaim, and I want to basically squeeze the shorts on this one. So what's the pivot going to look like? This is the weekly pivot, and that comes in right here at 76.83. 10 cent. No damage done on the monthly, guys. This is what happens when you have these hellaciously extended things, right? Actually, I want to put up the Bollinger. Okay. It did not revert back to the mean, which is a little bit of a bugaboo, but it's back inside the Bollinger, okay? And then we go from there to see how this plays out. As you can see, held fine, a little bit of a scary time here, 77.17, right? PDD, well, PDD had a lot more damage done, and a lot of this is a function of how it got to where it got. Did a round tripper basically, but it is holding this bottom end of this extension, this box that we've been in. So on a risk reward basis, the risk reward now is to the upside, not the downside. Because if indeed we're going to have a little bit more pullback here, you're talking in terms of, at this point, it was basically 10%, but when you look at it, it was with the low this week, it was a 4% move with the potential for a lot higher on the upside. I think it gets back up to here, which is 169. So on a risk reward, I believe PDD is on the upside, not the downside. Baidu, what a shit show here. Anyways, a butterfly. Let's see if we can kind of stick the landing. I'm actually looking at doing another butterfly, guys, for next week. FYI, and I will post that if we can get filled on that. We've got, you know, we paid 25 cents for it. We sold it at a couple 100%. We've got, you know, 270. So we should maybe get 1,000% on it if it mucks around in this area until tomorrow. We'll see. Okay. Bison. Well, yeah, we're going to do this. We're going to put it right there. There we go. On a valuation basis, I like this stock. I'm not in it right now. And the reason why I'm not in it is because for me, I'm focusing more on FXI and CHI for my swings, delta swings, okay? And then in terms of short term, like in weekly, I'm doing butterflies with like Baidu. I'm gonna look at PDD, stuff like that. So Bison kind of is not on my to-do list, and so sad, too bad, but you know, you can only do so much, okay? Baba Baidu, you see the spread here. Baba's starting to it bounced, taken to the woodshed, now it's up here. I think this is the new range, actually, in the spread right now. Whoop. So, and here's Baba in and of itself, still holding. I mean, this is, you know, it led. Now it's just kind of mucking around. I want to see call sweeps coming on Baba. That's what I want to see. ICLN, this is clean energy, bounced right off the 50% fib. I like this. I'm adding to it. I'm looking at out of the money options on this. I already started on Sun Power, and I'm on that one. And I've also got the CSIQ that Spartan's been shouting out, and I'm in XPEV. Right? I'm not in Neo or Lee, but Lee, I think, you know, all of these are moving the same percentage-wise. Anyways, okay, my time is up. Welcome once again to those of you who are new, as well as those of you who are joining us on our live YouTube stream Wednesday here, pre-market. It's time. Are you ready, sir?
Need about a minute here, Beth.
Not a problem. Okay, so here's BAT. This is the lithium. They took this to the cleaners as well. It basically got down into this 38.2%. I have not added to this trade. What I've been doing is looking at individual tickers that I want to be in, but I probably will add to this trade. I'm going to be a little bit patient on it. We'll see. Okay. I'm not sure whether I want to actually increase any more risk or not. Right? Here's FAN, which is wind as opposed to solar. It too broke down, but then has reclaimed. So all of these ETFs, okay, that involve clean energy, stuff like that, as well as EVs, basically, they got, on a monthly basis, they pierced support, but they've dramatically reclaimed it. So this was profit taking, could be quarter end stuff, whatever. But for me, this was a buying opportunity across the board. right? Here's tan, which is, I know Spartan's been saying, if you want to get this, I don't have any problem with this either. We've got basically a quadruple bottom on this on the weekly, right? As long as we hold this pivot right here, this 80.71, okay, the risk is on the upside, not the downside. So a lot of these tickers, guys, you have to be aware that the risk is slowly switching, okay, to the upside. Well, not slowly. The risk is to the upside, not the downside. All right. So let's.
I'm ready to go.
You all ready? Okay.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Alrighty, guys. Morning. What's going on? Thank you, Beth. As always, let's take a quick look at what we got going on today. If you guys are new to chat, I'll post the Discord link for you later in the Zoom chat once I'm done the pre-market breakdown. So let's take a look at what we got going on today. A couple different things. Tesla, Lulu, Baidu, Chewy, BLNK, PRPH. So what do we got going on today? Tesla gapping up, continuation from last day's move ahead of the infrastructure talk as well. Lulu, earnings mixed, EPS beat, rev in line, year-over-year growth, 23.8%, Q1 guidance, rev lowered, 2021 guidance, rev lowered, stocks gapping down. Baidu, gapping up, continuation from last day's move. Chewy, earnings beat, EPS and revs in line, year-over-year growth, 50.8%. Q1 guidance raised, 2021 guidance raised. Nice earnings overall, gapping up. BLNK, gapping up, continuation from last day's move and as well ahead of the infrastructure talk. And then PRPH acquired mobile app company VacTalk, which confirms the user has been vaccinated against COVID-19 for undisclosed amount. Stocks gapping up on that from yesterday after hours. Let's take a look at these names from a technical standpoint intraday. So first two names we're going to be looking at today, guys, Tesla and Lulu. I think Tesla our levels from yesterday are pretty much good, but let's quickly take a look at what we got going on here. So off the lows, inverted head and shoulders reclaimed on Tesla. I believe we're back right into the short-term EMA resistance on the daily. Yep, right at that level. Okay. What's that? 262. Yep. And that can certainly come down to the 50 EMA. All right. We should be good here. Let's take a look at the name intraday. All right, so pivot to the upside today, guys, is going to be this 652.16 area on the upside. This level is able to hold, and what's the pivot point, by the way? Pivot point is just a major support or resistance level that is going to pivot the price action intraday. In this case, that level is 652.16. This level is able to be reclaimed, room towards 664.36 to 679.88. Unable to hold, look for a pullback to 641.69. To the 619.27 level on the downside. Overall on Tesla, going to be leaning bullish. Today, looking for a continuation push higher. If that pivot is reclaimed, looks like we got some more room to the upside. I think we can push towards the 50 EMA level on the daily, which is around that 664. So that's what I'll be looking for, which should take our calls that we overnighted in the money, which will be good. Should get a nice continuation push on those. All right, let's take a look at Lulu. So Lulu earnings. Such a nice bullish setup too. Too bad. Alrighty, so a little bit of a pullback. Realistically, not that big of a pullback. It didn't pull back even close to the implied move, I don't believe. Yeah. So we're still pretty much range bound from last day. All right, let's take a look at what we got going on intraday here. Yes, last day's low, pretty much pivoting. Okay. So obviously uptrend broken in the short term, which you can see here. But the overall range is still holding on the daily, and it's literally only trading at the middle of that range, even on those bad earnings. Or not so favorable earnings that weren't really bad. Just disappointing. Just out of line. 311.33 pivot to the downside today. This level is unable to hold. We got room towards 307.15. That level breaks. We can see further continuation towards the 303.46 level on the downside. This level is able to hold. Look for a pushback to 316.58 to 321.62. Now, I see this as almost relative strength on bad earnings. So what we'll be looking for, I think, is a pull basing to kick in. Then I'll be looking for a long to, take this name back to the upside. I think that it's going to get bought back up, just given the price action, not getting any really follow through to the downside. So I'll be looking for a reclaim that 311.33 pivot and a continuation push back into that 316.58 spot on the upside. So that is Tesla, and that is Lulu. Let's take a screenshot of these two, and let's move on to the next. And by the way, the reason I am screenshotting it is because I do post it and type up the pre-market action plan in chat. All right, so that's Tesla. That's Lulu. Next two, Baidu and Chewy. All right, let's take a look at these two. So Baidu, nice follow through from yesterday. Over to push back this morning to last day's highs. Let's take a look at where we got going on, where we got room to today. Let's get rid of these for now. Short-term EMA support reclaim. Do have room to retest. It looks like this downtrend on the daily. It's probably going to be where the magnet is for today. 231s. Yeah, okay. All my levels are good. Alrighty, guys. Pivot to the upside of today is going to be this level right here. 214.64. Level's able to hold. We got room towards 226.24 to the 237.28, which is where I think we go to retest that downtrend on the daily. If the pivot holds up. Unable to hold the pivot, look for a pullback to 204.04 to 193.45. Overall on Baidu, going to be leaning bullish neutral, looking for a continuation grind to the upside into that downtrend on the daily. So that's what I'll be looking for today on that. All right, let's take a look at Chewy here. So into a decent range gap on the upside. Looks like we got a 50 EMA reclaim. Oh, break above this H pattern to the downside, back to the upside. So it's a big reversal, basically bear flag reversal type of pattern that's set up, which is quite bullish after the earnings. Typically, you get some strong follow through from that. Pivot to the upside today is going to be that 90.40 level, which is the 50 EMA. 97.39. That level is able to hold. You do have room towards 94.40. That level breaks, 97.39 will be tested. Unable to hold, 90.40. Look for a pullback to 88.04 to the 85.43 level on the downside. Overall on Chewy, going to be leaning bullish, looking for a continuation push higher today. So I want to see a hold of this pivot point and continuation push to the upside. So that is Chewy. That is Baidu. Let's take a screenshot of these two. Let's move on to the next. All right, BLNK, PRPH. And real quick, guys, just because YVR is running in the background, I actually did end up taking some there. 465, next big resistance on the upside on the daily. 440, 465, two resistance levels. Watch those. Okay, next level on the upside on, next level. BLNK, let's take a look at this. So great looking bullish reversal chart right here. 50 EMA is where we're testing in the morning, which is going to act as the pivot point today. That level is able to break. We do have room for continuation towards the 41.71 to 43.87 level on the upside. Unable to hold, we do look for a pullback on this name towards the 36.60s and then into that 34.65 support on the downside. Let's take a look at that intraday. Yeah. That's a decent looking chart. This name always has quite a bit of range when it breaks out of levels to the upside or the downside. So yeah, 38.97 pivot. This level is able to hold, like I said, 41.71 next level on the upside, then 43.87. Unable to hold, look for a pullback towards the 36.57 on the downside. Overall on BLNK, I am going to be leaning on the bullish neutral side today, looking for a hold of that pivot, continuation grind higher. I do like continuation on the EV and green energy names today, which, you know, chargers, EVs, solars, etc. We'll see if they can hold up for continuation pushes across the board. Alrighty, so that is BLNK. Let's take a look at PRPH. Quite the reversal that's set up on the daily. So we, what, 950 in the pre-market was the highs, or after hours, I should say. At 780s. That needs to be labeled. All right, 821 pivot to the upside today on PRPH. Unable to hold. We got room down towards 730 to the 641 level on the downside. Able to hold. Look for a pushback to 958. And if that level breaks, the 1050, what is it, 1052 level will be tested on the upside. Overall on PRPH, going to be leaning on the bearish side today, looking for a pop and topping to take the name short out the gate. So basically looking for that topping to kick in to get it on the short side, and then looking for a pullback basically to fill this recent range gap. That's BLNK. That is PRPH. Okay, let's take a look at the SPY and the FANG. Market pushing back up today after yesterday's, basically was range bound the entire day. What was happening yesterday on the SPY rebalancing? We saw money flowing out of, some of the value-based names and back into the tech, into some of the, green energy kind of growth names. Quite interesting price action in that regard. Pretty much stayed within the range the entire day as this rebalancing was occurring, which means the rebalancing seemed to be very controlled because of that. Now we'll see if we get something similar on the market today. Levels on the upside, we're going to have the 395.60 as your pivot point. This level is able to hold. We have room for continuation towards the 396.81 to 398.17. Unable to hold, look for a pullback to 394.16 to 392.20 on the downside. Overall on the SPY, going to be leading on the bullish neutral side today, looking for a continuation grind higher. We'll see what happens there. Overall, if you look at the market on the daily, obviously we got a hold of short-term EMA support, a little bit of a flag, more like a range break that's forming to the upside in the short term. There's that head and shoulders level that we need to be watching or be vigilant of, which is actually the pivot point to the upside today. And if that does break, we should see continuation back towards the all-time high as the levels, which is, obviously labeled here. So, we'll see what happens in that regard. Let's just zoom back out, take a screenshot of this. Actually, I think I did already. Yeah, perfect. All right, might as well quickly talk about the VXX as well here. So VXX, continues to break down, stair stepping to the downside. Get another Fibonacci extension level to the downside here, which this one's at the 1022 spot. So that pivot on the VXX today to be watching, guys, is 1160. If it's not reclaimed, it does have room down towards 1105 fib extension level. Able to be reclaimed, we watch for a pushback towards 1195. Again, I use the VXX for direction with the market. Gives me a better sense of what's going to happen with the SPY. So I just pay attention to that pivot point. It helps me dictate what the SPY is going to do in terms of direction at any given point in the day. So that's what I'll keep an eye on, that 1160 level today. All right, let's take a look at Apple. So Apple was a tad bit extended to the downside yesterday. Range holding, inverted head and shoulders holding. Small uptrend off the lows holding. 122.57. Actually, that works. All right, let's take a look at where we got room to today. $121.51 pivot to the upside today, guys. The sell was able to hold. They do have room towards 122.61 to 123.62. Unable to hold, look for a pullback to 120.19 to 119.31 on the downside. Overall on Apple, going to be leaning on the bullish neutral side today, looking for a continuation push higher. Holding the pivot on the daily, that uptrend stayed intact as well. So I think we could see a continued grind higher if that pivot point stays intact. If not, then obviously we'll see some selling pressure. Apple seems to not be able to get out of its own way. Obviously the last couple of weeks, months, I should say, actually. But we'll see what happens. That's Apple. Let's take a look at Amazon. Amazon pivot to the upside today is going to be that 30.64.71 spot. We do have an inverted head and shoulders on the hourly, which is obviously bullish. We hold that pivot. We got room towards the 30.97 to 31.39. Unable to hold 30.21.73 will be tested, which will be where that uptrend is on the daily. And then if that level breaks, 29.66 on the downside. Going to be leaning on the bullish neutral side of Amazon today, looking for a grind higher if it can stay above that pivot. Key obviously is if we can stay above that pivot, that level there. So that's Amazon. Let's take a look at Netflix. So, okay. Still in this consolidative pattern. Right below EMA support on the daily, which is that 1554 spot. If that level is reclaimed, actually, it's actually right above it, but one print. 1554 levels able to hold. They do have room towards 1521.90, 1530.59. Unable to hold, we look for a pullback on Netflix towards 507.40 to the 499.25 on the downside. Overall on Netflix, going to be leaning on the bullish side today, bullish neutral, looking for a continuation grind higher if we're able to reclaim that pivot point to the upside. Get above there, we should see continuation push higher. All right, let's take a look at Facebook. All righty. So we do have a flag on Netflix to the up, or not Netflix, sorry, Facebook to the upside. You can see the short-term flag as well. So we are above, I believe, that downtrend. Yes. And then, I mean, technically we could adjust this up now to the new flag breakout area. Yep, that's what we want to do. Get rid of that. Don't need it. Alrighty, guys, 291.94 pivot to the upside today. This level is able to hold. We got room towards 297.27 to 299.72. Unable to hold 285.33 to 280.57 will be retested on the downside. Overall, going to be leaning on the, I think, bearish side of Facebook today, looking for a push into the downtrend rejection, a little bit of a pullback towards the 285.53, more like bearish neutral. I think it's going to stay within this range, but trade off to the downside a little bit. So that is Facebook. Let's take a look at Google. Last but not least. So, same levels as before. 2054 pivot to the upside today. This level is able to hold. Room towards the 2110.95 level. Unable to hold. 2017.44 to 1990.76 will be tested on the downside. Overall on Google, going to be leaning on the bullish side today, looking for a continuation push higher. Bullish neutral, I guess. Stuck within the range. Nothing's really changed in that regard. All right, since we got a little bit of time left, and I kind of like doing these this morning as well because I want to know where they're at. Let's take a look at the QQQs and let's take a look at IWM. So what did we get on the QQQs yesterday? Retested that short-term bear flag uptrend, which actually ended up holding. Right now, pivot to the upside is a 50 MA, which is 316.51 area. This level is able to be reclaimed. We do have room towards 319.56. Unable to hold that, we can look for a pullback into the 312.82 to the 310.87 level on the downside. So we do have the tech names essentially holding up okay. Uptrend on the daily, pushing into a pivot. We'll see if we can get through that level or not this morning. And then IWM, which is also, I think, important in this market. We do have that uptrend that held as well on the daily. Now we're getting a push back to the top of this range resistance level, which is where EMA resistance is, as well as this, like I said, range. If we're able to get through that, we should have a little bit more room for continuation to the upside into the 226 area. All right, let's take a look at this. So 217.46 pivot on the upside there. That level is able to hold towards 220.93. Unable to hold, we look for a pullback towards that 214.83 level on the downside. So we'll see what happens in that regard. Looks, like it wants to push definitely to the top of that range. So we'll be leaning on the bullish neutral side of IWM today. All righty, guys. So that's the SPY. That's the FANG. Those are the individual names that we're looking at today. I'm going to go ahead, pass over to South Beach as I type up that pre-market action plan. And I'll talk to you guys shortly. South Beach, if you're ready, it's all yours.
Morning, guys. Okay, what do we got? Wednesday, right? Tomorrow's last day of the week, right? Shortened week. Let's see what we got today, okay? Okay, so we got a quiet bond. It was really, really eerily quiet this morning when I looked at everything. So we have the 10-year US unchanged, effectively, 1.72. I think it got up to what, 177 yesterday or so? Something like that. Anyway, staying in the range, top of the range. Maybe it's that infrastructure. Initially, they said 3 billion, now that 3 trillion, excuse me. Now they're talking 2 trillion. Maybe that's why the bonds are staying in place. Anyway, 10-year in Britain is quiet. Germany, same thing, minus 0.29. Quiet. And France, things are pretty quiet. Okay, the bonds there are a little bit lower. Okay, yields are down a little bit. All right, so that's that. Let's see what else we got. Let's look at commodities. Again, nothing going on. Oil down in nickel. All right, unchanged effectively. Gold, unchanged effectively. Silver, same thing. Copper, up 3 cents. That's not even 1%. Okay, so nothing really shaking things up there. Dollar's down against the North American currencies, but just barely 0.31%. Up against the yen a little bit, down against Chinese currency, 0.36. That's a significant move, I guess, 6.54. And the euro's probably nothing, right? Yeah, 117, staying there, doesn't move at all. Crypto world, you got down 1% basically. It's had a nice run in crypto. The Grayscale Bitcoin Trust is still trading at a discount. And let's look at the foreign markets, okay? FTSE down 6 points, basically unchanged. DAX down 8 points, basically unchanged. Nikkei down 1%. Shanghai, China's down about 0.5%, as is Hong Kong. So things are pretty quiet, okay? Pretty much across the board. So what's the date today? Like the 29th or so? 31st. So this is supposed to be a strong day, right? We're in that little strong point in the market. The strongest points in the month are the last 2 days and the first 2 days. So we're in that little window where stocks are supposed to be, stronger than the rest of the month. Historically, that's the case. Of course, every month is different, but historically, we're in the sweet spot of the month, right? So anyway, banks, Fed, kind of nothing going on there. China was very quiet. Gold and oil, we discussed, super quiet. The virus, US is doing an amazing job rolling out the vaccine. There was news today about 100% efficacy with the Pfizer drug for adolescents. I think that's the age group they looked at. So that's a super positive there as well. The dollar's not doing much. Let's look at Mr. Market, what it did yesterday, okay? So what was down yesterday? Big oil was down, gold and silver was down, consumer non-durables, and pharma. Okay, so as the risk-free rate of return out of the 10-year trades a little bit richer, meaning the yield is higher, the attractiveness of dividends is less so. So that's why they were probably in the negative camp. Okay, on the long side, you had solar, EV, banks and insurance was strong, hotels was strong, cruise was strong, airlines were strong, China was even strong, retail, home builders, materials. Materials have been really strong. And after the close, you saw CLF gave upside guidance. So this group is super strong. I think it continues to stay strong as the economy, takes flight a little bit, growth accelerates. And you finally had a nice bounce in tech, right? They've been in the house of pain for a while now. So that group did pretty good. Okay, hold on a second here. All right. So let's see what's going on today. All right. I think the big issue in the market as far as trading is concerned is the VIX. Okay. If you look at the VIX, which determines volatility, of course, we know that. If you look at a weekly chart of the VIX, you see we're back lower than pre-pandemic. Okay. So the pandemic, it looks like the VIX was more or less, let's see, about on the low end, let's call it 13-ish. Maybe a little bit lower, and now we're at 11, okay? As a trader, I don't like to see a low VIX because you want volatility, right? The more volatility, the better, all right? Crazy volatility, you make crazy amount of money. Very little volatility, you have to hit singles and doubles, okay? If you're lucky. You can't overtrade, you gotta reduce your size, all those little things, okay? Because you need volatility. And I'm just looking at that VIX every day getting creamed and saying, okay, that thing needs to get up somehow for things to be really good trading environment, for there to be a really good trading environment. I mean, we can make money nevertheless, it's just gonna be different, okay? And more difficult. You look at different things that were going on in the market. Let's look at SPACs again for a moment. I mean, this game is so over. It's laughable. All right, the investment banking firms effectively, burst the balloon by overflooding the market with deals. And when this thing first came out, you could buy stocks at 10, right? You were stopped out at 10, and these things would take over companies, and you would get stocks like the QS, which we took from 10 to what the hell would it went to 120, or Space, or all the, a ton of these names. Now, just look at like IPOE and IPOF. Okay, those that that's Shamat, whatever his name is. These things were trading based on the come, with no deal, up to $17 from their $10 issuance, and now they're right back in the crapper. Okay, IPOF is 1060. That's probably the lowest it's ever traded. IPOD is $11. Very little premium. So now you're risking $1 to make whatever you're making. But when you see a deal like this, Ajax has a really good sponsorship, AJAX. They announced the deal yesterday. Okay, nothing. Didn't move. Okay. QELL announced one, I think, today. I was in this stock in a big way. I got out of it because I got out of all my SPACs. But look, it's up 6 cents on the deal. I mean, really? If before you made 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 points when they announced the deal. I think the SPAC market, is going to be boring no matter what. Only because there's so many deals out there. You're going to have to sift through these like you would sift through any other security and find the winners, because you're not going to get that kiss. Maybe you will. Maybe PSTH could buy something like Chick-fil-A and you get a huge premium or something like that. But Chamath's Clover was a dog. I mean, let's call it what it is. All right. It was a complete dog. Where's that thing trading? I think pretty much below. It's still above issue, but it's still a dog. Anyway. Do I have the right symbol on this damn thing? Hold on a minute. Just want to make sure, because I hit up something else and it said something else. CLOV. Oh yeah, it broke price. Look, it's $7. The thing's a pig. So, he is not the savior by any stretch. So it wasn't just Chamath, Porto. It was everybody. It was the investment banks that took, everybody's doing what? What's the guy's name that used to be the receiver for the Giants? He's even doing a deal. I mean, give me a break. I mean, Serena Williams is doing a deal. Shaq is doing a deal. I mean, it's truly laughable. Okay, so that, and then they had the IPO market just get flooded, and they've all been dogs. So there's so many stock issuances, the low VIX, it makes things tough. So don't overtrade is what I'm trying to say. Okay, there'll be opportunities. We'll make money and stuff. We'll find things that are exciting, but overtrading will be the kiss of death until we get a little higher VIX, my opinion. Okay, let's see what else is doing today. So you got the VIX, the end of the month, Biden's infrastructure bill. He wants to raise taxes for corporations up to 28% from 21. That's a really big number. I don't know if he'll get that. And he wants to tax 2% on earnings outside the US. If this were to pass, remember the days, some of you may, or some of you may not, when companies tried to change their domicile to like Ireland or different stuff like that. You're going to see that all over again. Okay. Companies are going to try to leave if they put up the rates too high. I mean, you could spend money like a drunken sailor, but at the end of the day, you have to pay for things. And how he goes about paying for these things through higher taxes, whether he hits individuals or corporates or both or whatever, we have to wait and see. Okay, so that's a real point of contention that we got to pay attention to. What else did we see today? New York State passes legislation to legalize adult cannabis use. Then yesterday, some of these cannabis stocks got hit with the claim that they were bribing people in Illinois to pass their legislation, I have no sense on that. All I saw was that the stocks got smoked. What else came out today? RMO, on a previous SPAC. A lot of people thought this was a really good company. They have a really good energy pack. Can't get the necessary equipment to make them. That's a problem. So you're starting to see supply chain problems throughout everywhere, because as all these economies ramp up at the same time, there's a shortage of supplies. So that's a significant thing too. All right, so what else do we have? Tonight we have earnings from Micron. That'll be interesting. NCNO and XL. XL, remember that short report. And tomorrow you have CarMax. That's it for the week, of course. We know tomorrow's the last day of the week. And that's that. What do I think of PSFE? I think in these SPACs, there are good ones out there. You just have to do a lot of work and find the ones that are going to shine. There are going to be some that are going to go crazy on the upside. I think the majority are going to be dogs, but PaySafe, I saw them on Mad Money last night, and the sponsor is a really smart dude, Foley, and I think this may be one of the winners. If I was going to, gun to my head, I would say this is going to be one of the winners for sure. I think it's a quality underwriter. I think it's a sponsor, however you want to look at it. And it sounds like a really interesting company, but I don't know enough to say, am I going to buy it or not? I am not in it. I have never been in it. And I think it's interesting enough to research. Let's put it that way. Okay. What else is there? Let's look at what our gal did yesterday. She's catching a lot of flack for this space ETF, saying that some stocks in it shouldn't be in it, and she didn't need to do an ETF or whatever. I have no sense on that. All I know is the stocks that you wouldn't think would be in the ETF, like John Deere. Who knows? You know what? If it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. I haven't traded it. I don't know the symbol. I don't really give a damn. Let's see what she did yesterday, though. She's that BFLY, something she's been buying, that biotech platform. She continues to buy the crap out of it. She bought 487,000 more shares, so she's a believer. Continues to buy Twilio, bought some Twitter. Letter U, one of you guys, I forget which one of you was pushing that yesterday. I bought a little bit of that on the highlight in the chat, and they have, she bought that as well. On the sell side, she sold some Tencent. Nothing really on the sell side worth it. PayPal, she sold some of that. That was probably the most, the standout, I guess. 160,000 PayPal. All right, let's look at research, okay? See, you know what, I'm finding all the upgrades in price that are worth looking at are all in biotech, okay? So I think that's significant, because biotech, it's like, everything's on the come. All right. And when I do get a call in a biotech name, the first thing I look at is the 13 Fs to see if anybody with a brain is in these stocks. And if not, I just throw it away, because the fact of the matter is these hedge funds are really smart. They have a bunch of guys doing the research with PhDs and whatnot, and they're going to find the good ones, in my opinion, before an investment bank analyst figures it out. Okay. So that's how I do it. But so the ones that I saw, the ones that got upgraded with big targets, I didn't find one of them that had a smart guy in it. So that tells you something, I think. So anyway, getting back to research. Daiwa initiated Zoom with a sell, target 250. This is kind of laughable. It trades at 22.7 times sales, and they think it should trade at 19 times sales. Really? I mean, I don't know. Sounds rich in either case to me, but who knows? Morgan Stanley downgraded BP to a sell. Weak free cash flow. In a market with the very low VIX, you're going to start hearing a lot about free cash flow. Okay, people are looking for incremental things to get positive or negative on stocks. Okay, initiated BMI and flow with sells. I've never traded either one. What else was on the sell side? FDS, Goldman has a sell. What else? AFL, Citibank has a sell on that one. They've been wrong. They raised the target to 46. And that's really it on the short side. Calls that I thought were interesting on the long side. Well, you know the Apple call from UBS. Who would I consider the top 5 smarts to be in the stock? If you're talking about biotech, Car, I'll tell you. It's biotech and regular companies are completely different animals. Okay, so anyway, Apple's the big call. Neutral to buy, target 115 to 142. That's at UBS. I think that's a big call. Mizuho likes Hess. They raised it to buy and they raised the target to 94. Free cash flow yield. See, this free cash flow is going to keep popping up. And then all the upgrades in price were in biotech names. Citibank initiated the insurance group. They had basically neutrals on every single one of them, except Met, they had a buy. And was there any other? And RE and Allstate, those 3. And the sell name was AFL. They raised the target in TAP. Lulu, people are all over the place, but by and large, everybody still likes the stock. The earnings were fine. They were a little soft, nothing major. Okay. What else was there? People like Illumina. Okay, they had they're trying to take somebody over. Effectively, the government's considering blocking that deal. And so the stock got hit. Quality company. A lot of guys are reiterating the buy in the name. Illumina, they like it at Adams Harkness. They like it Piper. B. Riley likes this LAC. You remember we were trading that, guys, with the lithium names? Buy target 25. I think that's about it. Teradyne, I think Spartan was looking at this yesterday, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong, but reiterate the buy there at Deutsche Bank, target 140. They're going to show a turnaround with next quarter's numbers, according to Deutsche Bank. And I think that's it on the research. Okay, so you know what, G-Car, you can DM me and I'll answer your question, but you have to differentiate between 13 Fs of regular equities and biotech, completely different animals, okay? Just be careful, okay? The market should work higher today. It is the last trading day of the month. But I think there'll be a lack of volatility. So just don't overtrade. That's my advice, okay? As far as groups, we're seeing the tech stocks bounce end of the month. Semis, that should be okay. What's going to be weak? I would say you may see consumer non-durables and drug stocks on the short side again today. Okay, and that's it for me. Spartan, I'm out of time, so it's all yours.
All righty, thank you, Salt Beach. What's up going on, guys? Let's do a quick little recap of what we went through this morning in regards to those individual names and the SPY and the FANG here. All right, so quickly, let's just kind of rip through that. Pre-market tickers on watch today. If you guys want to pause it, if you're watching the YouTube stream, you can just pause it and read the action plan. Everything's posted in that regard. All right. A couple different things that we're looking at: Tesla, Lulu, Baidu. Actually, let me show the option side as well. Option side. All right, let's take a look at the pre-market tickers on watch. Tesla, gapping up a continuation from last day's move ahead of the infrastructure talk as well. Lulu, earnings mixed, EPS beat. Rev in line, year-over-year growth, 23.8%. Q1 guidance for Rev lowered, 2021 guidance lowered. Stocks gapping down on that. Baidu gapping up in continuation from last day's move. Chewy, earnings beat, EPS and Revs in line, year-over-year growth, 50.8%. Q1 guidance raised, 2021 guidance raised. BLNK gapping up continuation from last day's move ahead of infrastructure talk. And then PRPH gapping up on the acquired a mobile app company, VacTrack, which confirms the user has been vaccinated. All right, let's take a look at these names from a technical standpoint intraday. Tesla and Lulu, next two levels. Sorry, next two names we're looking at. So Tesla 652.16 is the pivot on the upside today. This level is able to be reclaimed. We got room towards 664.36. That level break 679.68 will be tested. Unable to hold, look for pullback to 641.69 to the 619.27 level on the downside. Overall on Tesla, going to be leaning on the bullish side today. Bullish neutral, actually. Looking for a reclaim of the pivot, continuation push higher. Lulu, 30.11.33 pivot. Levels able to hold. They got room towards 316.58 to 321.62. Unable to hold, look for a pullback to 307.15. That level breaks. We can see further continuation lower to 303.46 on the downside. Overall, and Lulu going to be leaning on the bullish neutral side today, looking for a pullback, basing to take the name long. I do like the stock, a relative strength, I should say, on those earnings that were supposed to be, or were negative, I guess. Baidu, 214.64 pivot to the upside today. Level holds in towards 226.24 to 237.28. Unable to hold, look for a pullback to 204.04 to 193.45. Going to be looking for a continuation push back towards the downtrend tests on the daily. That's what I'm looking for there. Let's take a look at Chewy. Chewy pivot upside 90.40, which is the 50 MA on the daily. Levels able to stay intact. 94.40 will be tested on the upside to 97.39. Unable to hold, look for a pullback to 88.04 to 85.43 on the downside. We also do have a bear flag reversal on Chewy that has set up on the daily. Well, it's currently confirming. So I think that can add fuel to the fire for a continuation push to the upside. Let's take a look at Blink. Let's take a look at PRPH, BLNK. Pivot to the upside today is going to be the 50 MA on the upside, 38.97. That level is able to hold in towards 41.71 to 43.87. Unable to hold, look for a pullback to 36.57 to 34.66 on the downside. Overall on BLNK leaning bullish, looking for a continuation push higher. PRPH 821 pivot level holds in towards 958. That level breaks. We can see further continuation on PRPH to 1052. Unable to hold, 730 to 641 will be tested. Leaning bearish on PRPH, looking for a pop topping to take the name short. If you guys haven't noticed, there's so many names that are pushing to the 50 MAs today. So big levels. A lot of the pivots are huge. Resistance areas to the upside. All right, let's take a look at the SPY and the FANG here. Market, what do we got? SPY, pivot to the upside today, 395.60. This level is able to hold. We do have room for continuation to 396.81 to 398.17. Unable to hold, look for a pullback towards 394.16 to 392.20 on the downside. Leaning bullish neutral on the SPY, looking for a continuation push higher. I want to see a break above this range to the upside, or at least a test of it, which we'll need to get through the pivot and into that 396.81 to test it. So that's what I'll be looking for there. Let's take a look at Apple. Apple pivot 121.51, levels able to hold in towards 122.61 to 123.62. Unable to hold, we look for a pullback towards 120.19 to 119.31 on the downside. Leaning bullish neutral on Apple if that pivot can stay intact or hold. Amazon pivot to the upside today, 30.65. Level holds, room towards 30.97 to 31.39. Unable to hold, look for a pullback to 30.21.73 on the downside. Inverted head and shoulders on the hourly, downtrend break on the daily. In the short term, looking for that pivot hold. If it does, we should see that continuation higher, in my opinion. Netflix pivot upside. Today we got the 515.54 level holds in towards 521.90 to 530.59. 507.40, unable to hold, look for a pullback to 499.25. Leaning bullish, neutral on Netflix, looking for a hold of the pivot, continuation higher. Facebook, let's take a look at that right here. Facebook pivot to the upside, 291.94, I should say. To the upside, this level is able to be reclaimed, room towards 297.27. Unable to hold, 285.33 will be tested. Going to be leaning on the bearish neutral side today, looking for a rejection at that downtrend and a slight pullback. I think it stays in the bearish neutral type of pattern today. But if it does break that downtrend, obviously it's a flag on the daily, and you'll see continuation higher. So watch that pivot point. It will dictate where you go. Google pivot to the upside today is that 20.54 spot. Levels able to hold. We got room towards 21.10. Unable to hold. 2017.44 will be tested on the downside. All right, let's take a look, and I'm leaning bullish neutral on that. All right, let's take a look at the VXX real quick. Last one, 1160 pivot, unable to hold. 1105 tested. 1195 will be tested on the upside if that is able to hold up. Otherwise, yeah, I'll be looking at the VXX for direction as always. All right, guys, that's a SPY. That's a FANG. Those are the individual names that we're looking at today. I'm going to go ahead and get my admin to shut down the stream. If you guys